Am I a terrible friend for wanting to punch my own friend? You'll find out soon enough. The day before you had verbally closed the contract with your new roomie, Kato. A guy who, while he had been open and answered all your questions, was still as mysterious as when you first met him. He was eccentric and shameless in his own way. He fell in love with you with a whole day of chatting, and he made that clear to you, admitting that he wanted a relationship with you, but he didn't ask for an immediate response. At least he was aware that the two of you had just met. You came out of your room. Kato had left very late at night, or rather, very early. For a moment, you thought of letting him sleep in the house for the night, but he came out of the blue. Knowing it was possible that you could slam the door in his face, it made sense that he wouldn't have thought about staying over, even if you had insisted. Yeah, this place is going to be his new home, but technically, it won't be until he signs the contract. Besides, he insisted that he arrived very suddenly last night, and that would be best if you slept on it to decide if you really wanted him there. And that he would understand if, after carefully thinking about it, if you decided to look for someone else to live with you. You thought that was quite considerate of him. Despite that, he made his eagerness known with his early morning messages. Honestly, you didn't feel it was necessary to keep thinking about it anymore. Hey, good morning, sweetheart. So, what do you think? About living together, I mean. By the way, hope you slept well last night. You stuck with the choice you made and decided to let him move into the house. And you made sure to let him know about that decision. You can bring your things when you come by later tonight to sign a contract. Even though his message arrived while you were still asleep and a considerable amount of time had passed since it was sent, your message was marked as read almost immediately. I'll be there later today. I have to take care of some things and then I'll be home. Someone else would think it was stupid for that last message to cause such excitement, but knowing that you would no longer be on your own in that lonely house made you happy. You got up from the couch and went to what could be Kato's next room. The day before, you had cleaned the whole house, and that included the room. It had been yours when you lived with your parents. Now that they were gone, you had decided to take their room. It was the biggest, after all. Kato would have to settle for the other one. It wasn't so bad either. Yeah, maybe it was a little smaller compared to the other room, but it was a good size, and it had a nice window with a nice view. The shelves your father had put up were still there, as was your old lamp and a couple pieces of furniture. So was the plant that refused to die no matter how much you forgot to water it. You went back to the living room and plopped down onto the couch. There was a time to kill before Kato arrived. Actually, you didn't even know when he was going to arrive. He could be there in 1, 2, 5 hours. There was nothing but silence. There was that emptiness that bothered you so much since you had finished moving in. It was as if all those negative emotions were little bunnies hidden in the corners of the house. Under the sofa, in the soil of the flower pots, between the fibers of the carpet. The sound of the drops in the sink falling was like having a ticking clock of noisy seconds, far from being an opportunity to distract you, becoming a constant reminder that time was passing, only to head off into nothingness. Maybe to the place your parents were gone. You closed your eyes and took a breath. This was no time to regret that. Almost as if your unconscious was looking for some way to pass the time, you realized you hadn't shared the news of finding a roomie with your friend. Before, he would be the first person to know, but since he had turned down your offer to live with you, you started talking to him less. Am I really that bitchy? You accepted that it had been rather immature. But it wasn't the first time one of you had acted that way either, and they always managed to get back to normal. Yes, I am. I really am that friend. You pulled out your phone and Mati's contact appeared at the top of your contact list. You pressed the call button and placed the device to your ear. Peep. Peep. Yeah, I get it. It's peep. Peep. You frowned when it went directly to voicemail. You hung up. It wasn't so strange that he didn't answer, but it made you sad. You watched the TV off for a few seconds. You could try it again, or just wait. Should I try again, or should I wait? Oh man, can I save? I can save. Okay, let's Try again? Wait. Let's try again. Before you could make up your mind, your phone started vibrating in your hand. That had to be Matthias. Or maybe not. It was a message from Kato. Hey, want me to bring you something to eat? My treat. Just tell me, what do you feel like eating? That was thoughtful of him. Not to mention he had no food in the house and had been putting off going shopping. And now that was your responsibility, you would have to do it with all the more reason. He looked at the messages again. I feel like pizza. Noted. See you in a bite. A bit. He smiled dumbly at the message. Yeah, Kato would arrive and all that awkward silence in the house will be gone with a couple of new footsteps echoing through the walls. With the movies he had admitted to that he enjoyed, the music he liked to listen to, and any other sounds a person would make when at home. Kato was nice, mysterious, yet you had to admit that what you needed most was for someone, whoever it was, to help you not feel like the silence and fear was taking the air out of you. Your friend could have been that person, but you understood that he had his reasons for refusing. You turned on the television just to have some background noise and lay down, closing your eyes and letting your mind fill with the conversations of the characters that were on the program that echoed in the space. You had a weird dream about being a frog in a pond. One of those ones with little green leaves and pink flowers. It was a peaceful dream until a huge lion came to move the pond with its sharp claws, roaring and showing his fangs dangerously. Then a panther arrived and started attacking him. In their fight, they would end up moving the water too much, and before you know it, you were drowning. Just when you thought it was the end of you, a huge paw would reach you. You couldn't know where the fight ended when a firm knock on the door made you open your eyes with a start. You knew that the dreams were always strange, but you could almost safely say that this was the strangest one you've ever had. You got up and walked to the door, rubbing your eyes to get rid of the vestiges of sleep that were still there. It was as if the water was still in your lungs. You knew you'd get used to it eventually, but when you opened the door, you had a weird feeling again as you saw Kato waiting on the other side. Hey, sweetheart. Kato greeted with a huge smile. The memory of the previous night came as a pleasant deja vu. No flowers this time? You asked playfully. Sorry to say, no this time, but I did bring food. He warned, holding up a bag. The smell made your stomach growl. Also, how do you bring a bag of pizza? Did you just bring me one slice? Like, legit, are we supposed to share the one slice, Kato? Did you not think this through, Kato? How long had you slept? You let it go, covering a yawn with the back of your head as you let Kato in and closed the door before walking to where he had gone. The dream still wasn't completely gone yet. You felt a glance and looked up to find Kato's blue eyes glued to your face. Were you sleeping? He asked, putting some things down on the table. No, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to wake you up. You blinked. Kato spoke to you with a familiarity that could be mistaken for someone who has been roomies with you for a long time. And to be fair, you didn't feel like a stranger had walked into your house with food either. Maybe last night's interview really had been a sharper icebreaker than you could have imagined. Or your desperation was such that you simply accepted the presence of a new tenant so easily. It made sense. You needed company. You were running away from the pain of losing your parents, leaving your friend, the issue with your ex. That was your motive. What was Kato's? Was it just that he liked you? It's okay. You calmed him down. I slept too much anyway. Starving. Good luck for you that I promised myself not to let you die while I'm here. He joked, winking at you as he pulled out the inside of the bag at the island that separated the kitchen from the living room. You got a warm feeling in your chest at his concern, and for a moment you felt that everything would be okay. Kato would be good company and you couldn't ask for more. The food was delicious, and as much as you asked Kato where he was from, he flatly refused to tell you. The good wizard never reveals his secrets. He smiled at the end, and you left him alone, only if he promised to take you someday, which he did without hesitation. When you finished, Kato picked up all the garbage and threw it away. I'm glad you enjoyed your meal. He smiled at you and sat back down. Hope you enjoyed the company too. While his look was trying to be confident, you could tell that he was waiting for a response. It was nice. You put him at ease. He seemed pleased with himself as he looked around. You had shown him around the house the day before, and he still looked astonished. I missed asking you something yesterday. He looked at you curiously, his blue eyes wide. Why did you want to move? Oh, right. He nodded, but didn't answer right away. Instead, he went back to looking at the house. I honestly don't know. I was bored and saw the ad. That's not a good excuse! Not only did that not answer your question, but it also left you with other questions. And? Kato watched you in amusement. Well, I love to tease you a little, but I'm afraid I might try your patience and you'd end up kicking me out. I'm gonna deny it. I wouldn't do that. He smiled, settling down at the table. I was already thinking about moving. He began to explain. After I left my parents' house, I lived for a short time in an apartment where I couldn't fit in, and in the end, I rented a house. Nothing too big, but enough for a bachelor not fond of luxuries like me. I thought I would be fine there, but in the end, I started to feel claustrophobic and lonely. He laughed as he scratched the arch of his nose. A friend suggested I go with him, but I saw your ad, took it as a sign, and, well, here we are. Despite not looking you in the eye, he looked proud. So you learned that Kato was also a lonely person looking for companionship, and that the both of you were winners in this whole affair. You looked at your phone. There was still no answer from Matthias. Now this was strange. You knew he was on his phone most of the time. At some point they had an argument about it, so not getting even a nod was worrying. Kato didn't interrupt you, but you could feel his worried look, and it wasn't until you gave it back to him that he actually spoke. Everything alright? He spoke in a soft voice, having to look away to cough against his forearm. You looked back down at your phone. I have to visit a friend, you warned. If you couldn't reach him by phone, a visit might do the trick. The last time you had seen each other, anyway, was the day you had finished moving, and you missed hugging him. Partly because the move had taken up so much of your time. Kato frowned slightly as he looked at the door. I can give you a ride if you want, he offered, relaxing his expression as he looked back at you. Yeah, if you insist, sure. Well, if you insist, I'll agree to a ride. It will be my pleasure, he assured you, getting up from the table. You looked out the window only to notice that the weather looked cloudy and gray. The clouds were swirling and threatening to release all the water that was hidden in their fluffy texture. Kato seemed to notice it too because he was quick to point it out. Earlier, the weather was sunny. Hope it rains in the evening. Actually leaving together sounded like a good idea. Before leaving, you remembered to give him the spare keys so he could leave his things. When you two got out, you could see Kato's car parked outside your driveway. Why are these the same? Why are these the same? Hello? Okay. As soon as you saw it, you knew it was an all-black Dodge Charger. Maybe 2018, 2017. Its windows were tinted. Seeing Kato next to it made sense why he chose it. They suit each other. Kato took it upon himself to open the door for you, and then he made his way to the driver's seat. The engine purred pleasantly, without making much noise. Kato brought his head to the stereo, and you knew it was an unconscious movement when he almost immediately retracted his hand and shook softly to himself. You could put on some music. I don't mind if you play music, you assured him. Kato smiled sideways, looking embarrassed. It's broken. Besides, I'd rather you put on the GPS so I know where your friend's house is. He smiled as he rubbed the tip of his nose. You nodded, pulling out your phone and looking up the address. The truth was, you knew the address backwards and forwards. You had lived there for quite a while, after all. Kato thanked you and started driving. You looked at the turned-off radio one more time and decided that you might as well take advantage of the drive and chat a little. Where are you going? You asked, hoping you weren't taking him too far off from his destination. Yeah, I'm just gonna get my things. He smiled with a mixture of excitement and laughter, then cleared his throat, as if he was about to cough. I was gonna bring some now that I was bringing you food, but I was so excited I just forgot. How did you forget to bring your things? You asked, catching on to his emotions. I don't know. He accepted, denying softly, incredulous of his own actions. Yeah, I packed things, and when it was time to leave, I left everything in the living room. I tend to be impulsive like that sometimes. You felt a mixture of tenderness and grace. The good news is that, thanks to that, I had an excuse to talk to you. He didn't take his eyes off the streets, but you could almost swear he was looking at you out the corner of his eye. You looked at the car some more. It smelled clean and looked almost new. How long have you had it? You asked, to bring up a new topic of conversation. What? The car? For a while, actually. I just don't use it except when it's raining or when I have to transport stuff. I like using my motorbike better, to be honest. I feel more free, I guess. Kato was the perfect balance between a cool guy and a romantic guy in a way. A bike sounds fun, that's scary. Yeah, sounds fun. It's wonderful to just take it out and go out, get it all over your system. Kato smiled proudly. The rest of the ride, Kato told you some of the anecdotes that led to him to buying the car. The most memorable was on occasion when the rain caught him in the middle of the road, and he had to hide in a store where the guy kept insisting that his house was nearby and he could hide there all night. It was hard at first, but after a while he realized that spending the night with him had a double meaning. Wait, what? How did you not notice? You asked with a smile. Kato really didn't look like the type to be so oblivious about it. He slumped his shoulders. Don't know. I was distracted that day and really thought I was just being nice. And it was nice, but needed to get home to go to work. Yeah, I just hope he didn't take it the wrong way. I think we're here, sweetie. When you looked out the window, you realized that you were indeed in the house that had been your home for a long time. Kato parked in one smooth motion. This house had not only been the place where you slept, it had witnessed things both good and bad. You tried to think only of the good things. All the times with Mati, the independence. It was impossible not to think about the bad. You looked out the window again and realized that a few small drops were already falling, sticking to the window and sliding slowly on the glass. If you had gone on your own, you would have been caught in the rain. Also, what do you mean just a few droplets? It's straight up pouring right now. Your vision was interrupted when the door opened and Kato appeared with an umbrella. Another good thing about the car. I can leave things behind that might come in handy at some point. Yeah, a cool guy and pretty romantic. He took you to the entrance calmly and let you ring the doorbell while he closed the umbrella, taking advantage of the fact that they were under a small roof. The seconds ticked by with water droplets falling on the pavement. And there was still no sign of your friend. Knock again. You looked at Kato, who gave you an encouraging smile, so you knocked again. There was more silence. You couldn't imagine what could have caused him to not even answer the door. Your stomach contracted, and you regretted not having his partner's number. Doesn't seem to be home. You blurted, struggling not to lose your mind. There had to be a coherent explanation. Kato frowned, looking at the house with tight lips. Do you want me to take you home before... Kato's voice was cut off by the door opening. Why are you so short? Lion! There was your friend. With his huge smile and those playful green eyes. Even Kato's just like, hello? Safe and sound. You felt relieved? You hugged him tightly, sighing loudly. Why weren't you answering? You asked, pulling away to look him in the face. I'm sorry. He apologized, giving you an apologetic look. My phone died. And you couldn't put it back on charge? Nah, my phone died. He repeated, clenching his hands into a fist and then raising them and opening his fingers, accompanying the gesture with a sound that imitated an explosion. The hell? You looked at him, blinking a couple of times. It exploded. He explained with a mischievous smile. I want to punch him! Is it okay? Kato, whatever you want to do with this man, I'm all for it. You were going to ask what he meant by that, but you noticed that his gaze went elsewhere and his friendly expression changed to one of complete annoyance. And you are... His tone, to your unsurprise, was rude and arrogant. Even the great difference in height between him and Kato didn't intimidate him. Your friend wasn't a pleasant person at first encounter. Even with his lovable appearance, you were aware of how difficult he could be, and while people might wonder how you got along with him so well, the reality was that when you got to know him better and he got to know you better, he could become one of the best people to be around. I am inclined to disagree. The best example was how much he had helped you with your ex. Kato, a pleasure. He greeted, ignoring Matthias's behavior, smiling kindly, which you appreciated. Although he did stretch out his hand to him, maybe because even he could tell he wouldn't reciprocate. Matthias, on the other hand, looked at you with a raised eyebrow. He's my roomie. Be nice. And he meant it. He didn't want two of the people in your closest circle to get along badly. I won't mind kicking Matthias onto the street. Not again. Matthias looked at you with the words, "We need to talk," scarred in his eyes. Come in. Both of you, I guess. Thank you, but I was already leaving. You looked at him in surprise. You're leaving? Yeah, Lion. I'll get my things, and as soon as you're done, just talk to me, and I'll come get you. There's no hurry, and I won't be far away. You were impressed that he used your name instead of the nickname you had become so used to coming out of his mouth. You couldn't help but wonder if it was out of consideration for being in front of your friend and wanting to avoid putting yourself in an awkward situation. Whatever the case, Kato waved goodbye to your friend and brushed your hand with his knuckles as he smiled at you before turning away, not bothering to use the umbrella again even though the raindrops were a little bigger than before. You saw him get into his car, but the tinted windows prevented you from being able to look at him any longer. Well, when was the last time your boyfriend let you be alone with me without looking at me like he was going to kill me? He's not my boyfriend. You frowned. He is not my boyfriend. You replied as you watched the black car disappear down the street. As you two entered the house, he continued talking. Remember when your idiot ex wouldn't let you stay here alone with me? Either he slept here with you or he forced you to go sleep at his house. You pressed your lips together. You remembered more than just that. And even if the subject was unpleasant, Matthias seemed unwilling to let go. Remember from the first time he refused to leave you? I knew there was a problem, but you insisted he was cute and just wanted to spend time with you. Like second nature, they went to the room they used to share. Okay. You used to go to bed. Sometimes each in your own bed. Sometimes in the same bed. Well, talk about anything and everything. When you could, you would stay up until the wee hours of the morning, as if you were teenagers at a sleepover. You felt a bittersweet nostalgia when you entered the room and noticed that your bed was gone and the other one had been changed for a double bed. He laid down in it and motioned for you to do the same. And your girlfriend? Where's your girlfriend? You asked, realizing you were alone. She went out with some friends. What a thing. She barely has time to breathe, and today, when she had the day off, told her to go out for a while with them. She deserved it. The truth is, you were happy to be able to spend some time alone with your friend. Until it came back to the subject you would have liked to avoid. I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so, and several times. That jerk reeked of trouble from day one. You flopped down on the bed with a weary sigh, closing your eyes. I'm sorry. Thought we could make some jokes about it. That's not very funny at all! My dude! Like, legit? What is wrong with you? You could tell by his tone that he really felt bad about coming back to the subject. You opened your eyes slowly, staring at the ceiling. You thought about how ideal it would be if you could actually joke about it, but the truth was that just thinking about him made your stomach burn. There was a moment of silence, an awkward silence, the kind that only existed between the two of you when Mati was about to talk about an uncomfortable subject. Lion, have you thought about... No, you hadn't thought about it, and you wouldn't. You heard your friend's huge sigh. It was a mixture of annoyance, anger, and sadness. Out of the corner of your eye, you noticed that he was combing his hair. Yeah, I don't know. What you need to think about. Lydia already said that she can take the case, and you have every chance of winning. The idiot has no way of... You looked at him, and he got the message right away. Even though he rolled his eyes and denied, he didn't say anything for quite a while. Respecting, but not agreeing, as he used to say. So? He asked, sitting up, looking at you from above. Without moving, you looked at him with a raised eyebrow. What's going on with this Gato? Kato. Same thing. You smiled slightly. Well, he doesn't need to know everything. Honestly saying, you suck, and I'll be honest, he's my roomie and he likes me. He's my roomie and, well, he likes me. No shit, Sherlock. He smiled a mischievous smile at you. He looks at you like you're the only light in the world. You laughed a little. So? He likes you. How do you feel? He looks at you, and in his eyes, there was a hunger for gossip, but also caution. Matthias has always been quite protective of you. Before the one who should not be named, you couldn't help but call him exaggerated, but ever since, you felt like you had to listen to him more. Ignoring his question, yeah, I like him. No matter how little time they had known each other, or how mysterious it was, you like Kato. He was attractive, kind, considerate, he treated you with affection. You could safely say you reciprocated his feelings. I like him. Except feeling good about saying it out loud. Yeah, figured. He uses his smart-ass tone, but you couldn't help but smile. But that doesn't mean I agree. This time his tone was a bit more sour. I'm gonna let him keep talking. I can always deck him later. Don't get me wrong, Lion, he asked as he sighed. I just don't want history to repeat itself like it happened with the one who shall not be named. I care too much about you and I don't want the next time I see you to be, in a bag or never see you again at all. You pressed your lips together, feeling a funny feeling in your stomach. Sometimes you didn't like how direct he could be. Listen, Kato doesn't come across as a bad person. Well, maybe a little bit, yeah. And I like to say I don't judge a book by its cover, but seriously, there's something I don't like about it. Is it because he's taller than you? You smiled. Matthias, when have you ever liked someone from the beginning? For Monty, everyone was an idiot until proven otherwise. Maybe you wouldn't be friends if they hadn't met when Monty was a friendlier kid. That's different. You both laughed, knowing it wasn't. Well, yeah, he may not be an easy person to like, but you can't defend him either. You barely know him. I'm gonna... I agree to disagree. I'm gonna defend Kato. Why is this the line? He's special! Okay, that's all I can say about him. Matthias snorted loudly. Jeez, you're such a fairy tale princess. He growled with a hidden laugh. Please tell me you won't get married when the first ray of sunrise comes up. You gave him a playful shove. You watched him sit down as he whistled softly, combing his hair. Then he settled back so he could look at you. Whatever. I know I was the one who suggested you have a roomie, but be careful who you bring into your house. Why did you suggest for me to have a roomie then? You blurt out with curiosity. Well, I told you to have a roomie. Someone who would pay you to live in your house. And that way, there would be more people in the house. Not that he would become your new boyfriend. He's right. He shook his head softly. Listen, I don't care if you want him as a roomie, a boyfriend, or just want to hang out. Just be careful. You sat down too, looking him in the eyes. Man, I'll be fine. I'll take care of myself. You promised. You didn't notice how tense Matteo was until the words left your mouth and his shoulders and expression relaxed. I hope so. And if you ever feel uncomfortable, you can just tell me, I'll help you get out of trouble and the house, or hide his corpse. You rolled your eyes. Maybe going to your friend's house had been about the bad feeling that something had happened to him, but you were actually happy to have hung out with him, even when he asked you to join him in cooking while you continued to talk. Despite complaining at first about having to leave the comfort of the bed, the time flew by as Matthias told you about how happy he was with his girlfriend, and how some of his projects were going as planned. He also gave you a bowl of soup he was cooking. You missed his good taste. You left your empty plate in the sink when your phone vibrated. Sweetheart, I finished doing everything I needed to do for today. When you finish, let me know, and if you want me to pick you up, don't hesitate to let me know. The rain stopped, so I could go get you if you want. You couldn't help but feel butterflies. Why are you smiling? He asked, look at you and then at your phone. Is it your gato? Translation note, calling someone gato can be considered a demeaning way for someone who works for someone else. What did you just call him? He added, his brow furrowed and a contemptuous smirk on display on his lips. I'm gonna let him be. You sighed resignedly, reminding yourself that Mati had that way of speaking, much as you didn't like it. Yes, it's Kato. He told me if I want, he could pick me up. Ha! Cute. His tone was somewhat sarcastic. You looked at the phone to answer Kato. I'll call you when I finished. Perfect. I'll keep an eye on it, but don't stress yourself out. Have fun. Kato must have been waiting with his phone in hand because he replied to you right away. You pocketed your phone and glanced at Matthias, who met your gaze with a raised eyebrow. Anyone would think you're jealous just by looking at you. You teased him, offering a mocking grin. Ew! He gasped with a dramatically offended expression. You'd always told him that he would be a great theater actor. I feel insulted. I'm sorry to tell you this, but neither you or Gato are my type. So what's your type? He flashed you a wide, white smile and a blush of pink on his cheeks. You knew what he was about to say and almost regretted asking in the first place. My beautiful Lydia, of course. You rolled your eyes forcefully. Again, your friend was cute once you got to know him better, and he could be very affectionate on his own, but he was still unbearable at first impression, and you still had no idea how Lydia had truly taken the time to get to know him thoroughly. You had only spent time with her a couple of times, and you could say there were living proof of the saying, opposites attract. You spent the afternoon chatting for a while longer, catching up on the days where they had been silent. Whether he noticed it or not, it was actually you who stopped talking to him. He didn't comment on it, and that made you not dwell on it too much. The important thing was that you were fine now. Time passed, and before you know it, the sun was setting, casting shadows inside the house. Although Matthias seemed tired, you headed to the sofa to continue the conversation, and you soon noticed he looked sleepy, which meant it was time to head back home. You asked Kato to pick you up. The truth was, you wanted to spend more time with him, and after all, he was the one who suggested picking you up. He replied that he was on his way. You were able to chat a bit more with Matthias before receiving a message from Kato saying he was outside. Kato's here to pick me up. Mati's tired face lit up and immediately scrunched up. You're Gato. You decided to ignore it and got up from the couch, making sure you had your belongings. He's just being friendly, that's all. Yeah, sure. Matthias directed you to the door while still teasing you, joking about how lucky you were to have a roommate and a driver at the same time. Once outside, the cold weather hit you hard, almost make you want to turn around and go back in, but you soon spotted your roommate up ahead. Kato was leaning against his car, staring at the pavement in front of him. For a moment, you swore he looked annoyed, as his brow was furrowed and his lips were tightly pressed into a line, his entire body tense as he used his phone. There was a silent, yet loud warning in his aura. You had an unpleasant flashback of your ex doing the very same thing every time he waited for you outside, and your feet almost retreated. But then Kato's gaze lifted, meeting yours, and instead of furrowing his brow further and gesturing for you to come to him immediately like your ex used to, his face softened and a smile graced his lips. He stepped away from the car, pocketing his phone, and walked towards you. Hey. He greeted you. From the corner of your eye, you noticed his arm hesitated to lift, as if he wanted to hug you, but in the end, his hand stayed down. I hug him. Showing him that it was okay to hug you, you initiated it. You opened your arms before he could stop and embrace him. He was quick to reciprocate, slipping his arms underneath yours, giving you a gentle squeeze. A pleasant scent of shampoo reached you, along with the faint smell of cigarette smoke. You couldn't help but notice that his warm temperature provided a pleasant contrast to the cool breeze against your back. When you pulled apart, his eyes sparkled and his cheeks had a red shade. Matthias huffed beside you. You had a theory that he was allergic to public displays of affection. Except when it came to him and his partner, of course. See you, Lion. Your friend said goodbye, pulling you in for a hug. We need to talk soon. Either come over to my place or I'll come to yours. Doesn't matter. Not leaving you with that issue. From his furrowed brow, you could tell what issue he was referring to. Take care, Mati. Kato bid farewell with a slight nod, and both of you headed to the car. Just like before, Kato made sure to open your door before getting in on his side. The sound and weather outside muted as if entering a different world. Did you have a good time? Kato asked as he started the engine. This time he turned on the radio, but at a very low volume, just enough to provide background noise. I thought it was broken! I did, you replied before swallowing hard. Once again, you couldn't help but think of your ex and those passive-aggressive questions he liked to ask. Make you feel like you were walking on thin ice where any wrong word would turn Antarctica into the heart of a volcano. I'm glad. He nodded with a genuine smile. You thought he would now apply the pressure of silence to make you talk and detail what you had done and talked about with your friend, but instead, Kato spoke again, glancing at you for a second before returning his gaze to the road. Your friend seems nice. Matthias, right? You smiled, looking out the window as the houses quickly passed by. Don't lie to me. You denied, remembering how badly you had treated him. I'm not lying. He reassured with a smile, taking one hand off the wheel to gesture. He seems nice, although it is the fact that he hates me. He didn't seem offended. He was a bit more amused. Ah, man. It's nothing personal, he doesn't hate you. It's nothing personal. He admitted. Matthias is complicated. He doesn't like anyone, and especially... he's protective over me. I don't blame him. You have to be protected at all cost. He confirmed happily. You sighed, feeling a mix of embarrassment and relief. Kato wasn't like him. He couldn't be. You had promised yourself that you wouldn't make the same mistake again. You chatted a bit more during the journey, and Kato told you about how he had finished moving the most important of his belongings to the house. He also asked you to give him your bank account over the phone so he could deposit the first month's rent, and when you arrived home, he could sign the papers to make the agreement official. Kato sighed as he leaned back in the chair with his eyes closed. At the same time, the day before, they had been in the same spot chatting. The biggest difference was that now Kato was officially your roommate. The paper on the table with a signature was proof of that. Well... Which goes first? Milk or cereal? What's your spiritual animal? Do you believe in ghosts? Milk or... I should save here. Because I know some of y'all will want me to actually, come back to this later. Get back. Milk or cereal? Kato's mouth formed into a wide grin. The question from yesterday? Do you really want me to answer that? He didn't sound dismissive. In fact, he seemed genuinely surprised. Perhaps because he took the questions as simply a result of the obvious fatigue you had the previous night. Well, there's a reason why I'm asking again, isn't it? He gently shook his head before looking up, as if trying to remember something. Okay. Cyril goes first. I don't believe in ghosts, and I have no clue whatsoever. You weren't sure if his ability to recall all the questions was due to his good memory or because he really paid attention to you. Alright, now explain your answers. Not the Cyril one. He shifted, adjusting himself as he looked down thoughtfully. I don't know everything that exists has to be visible, but I've never seen a single ghost in my life, nor have I had any paranormal experiences, and the things I've seen on TV and the internet, they look fake. He rested his chin on his hand and looked at you. Do you believe in ghosts? Yeah, of course. You nodded. Why? You were pleased to see that you had his attention and that he wasn't just pretending. I've had some paranormal experiences, and so did my parents at some point. Matthias had also told you a few. Yeah, I'm listening. He nodded, settling in. You cleared your throat and began to recount in detail, feeling safe and listened to. Kato listened attentively, not missing a single detail. When you finished, he asked you a couple of questions, and as soon as you answered, he asked you to continue. In the end, he shook his head gently. That's scary. I might believe at least a little bit now. I don't believe you. A small chuckle rumbled from him. I mean, I don't think you're lying to me, but I'm sure there are a million different explanations for those situations. My dad also believed in ghosts, and he told me several stories, but why would someone's spirit stay in the world? I know they say it's because they had unfinished business or did bad things in life, and now they don't have the right to eternal rest, but that's too sad, isn't it? That even death can't take you away from your mistakes. His smile retained, even though it didn't reach his eyes, which were now glued to the table. The world is a mystery, sometimes a sad one. Kato looked thoughtful and not very happy. It was best to change the subject. My spirit animal would be... Kato looked up, and now you noticed the sparkle in his eyes. It was good to see him happy again. I can see it. He purred, looking at you tenderly. Then he looked up, rubbing his hands together. Never waited on a spirit animal before. Doesn't have to be a spirit animal. Just what animal you identify with. You watched as he narrowed his eyes, taking his answer very seriously. You could almost see the mechanisms in his brain spinning. The panther. Huh. You could see it. Why? His grin became more cat-like. Actually, it's just my favorite animal. I don't think I share characteristics with them. Then he half closed his eyes, as if he was thinking before he spoke. Except, maybe we'd both be happy to devour you. Whether it was the fault of the phrase or the way he looked at you as he said it, but you couldn't help but blush as he let out an embarrassed laugh. Kato joined in shortly after, delighted with your wordless response. You were able to chat much longer, jumping from one topic to another. Nothing too meaningful, but you definitely enjoyed yourselves and the house was filled with laughter and sighs. It was a huge contrast to the lonely morning you had. With the lonely days you've been going through lately. The day couldn't have ended any better, you thought. You were happy to have seen Mati and excited to welcome Kato home. That night, you slept peacefully. So that was day 1 of Red Phone. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys do want to play this for yourselves, link to the game will be in the description below. And oh boy, I guess we're in for another slow burn. At least that's what I'm thinking. I almost prefer the pilot where a lot of the threat is immediately present. But then again, I guess that's just a proof of concept for the character itself and what could potentially happen in the future. But we'll see where it goes in day 3. Hopefully things pick up by then. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of the day. And as always, I'll be seeing you in the next video. This is Lion, signing off. Ciao.